Shalom from Jerusalem. I'm Lars Enarson with the Watchman International and the Elijah Prayer Army. I'm coming to you today with a very urgent appeal because the nation of Israel is right now in a very great danger. Not only the nation of Israel, but also the United States of America. Why? It is because the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who is a great friend of Israel, has also developed a plan that he is calling the deal of the century to create peace here in the Middle East by dividing the land of Israel and establishing a Palestinian state.
You know, it's interesting. All my life, I've heard that the toughest of all deals, when they talk about tough deals, we all like deals, but the toughest of all deals would be peace between Israel and the Palestinians. They say it's like the impossible deal. I'd love to be able to produce it.
Jerusalem becoming the capital. So I said, let's take it off the table. And you know what? In the negotiation, Israel will have to pay a higher price because they want a very big thing.
President Trump has tried to keep this plan secret until the right time when it is going to be unveiled. And now he has decided that this plan is going to be unveiled in right after the national elections that will take place here in Israel on April 9. Now the question is, why is he waiting till after the elections to unveil his peace plan? This is hiding his plans from the people of Israel who are going to the polls to elect the next government. And this is something that will affect the future of this nation in a tremendous way.
נתניהו והנשיא טראמפ מסוכמים על יציאה לתוכנית להקמת מדינה פלסטינית מיד לאחר הבחירות. הם מתואמים שלא להציג את התוכנית לפני הבחירות על מנת שלא להקשות על נתניהו, אבל ביממה 2 לאחר הבחירות תוצג התוכנית להקמת מדינה פלסטינית על 90% מהשטח, כולל חלוקת ירושלים. לפיד וגנץ ייכנסו לממשלה כממשלת שלום לאומית. הדרך היחידה לעצור את זה זה עם ימין חזק אמיתי. תודה רבה.
The government that is being elected must not give in to the pressure of the greatest friend of this nation, the United States of America, if they want to pressure this tiny state of Israel, which is surrounded by enemies all around, the only nation in the entire world that is being threatened by extinction. We know that this is going to be a very great danger for Israel right after the elections, when President Trump will unveil his peace plan and place tremendous pressure not only on the Palestinian Authority, but also there will be great pressure on the state of Israel to accept his deal of the century. Specifically because it is coming from the greatest friend of Israel. And President Trump is also using as a temptation the nation, the Arab states around Israel, that they will make peace with Israel if they agree to the establishment of a Palestinian state. So much is at stake right now. And on March 20, there will be on the Jewish calendar what is called the Fast of Esther, the day before the Feast of Purim. And we're calling on all of you to fast just like Queen Esther did in the Persian Empire to save her nation, to save the Jewish people from extinction, the danger from the plan by Haman to kill all the Jews in the Persian Empire. Right now there is a similar danger to the state of Israel. And we ask you to fast and to pray that this deal of the century to establish a Palestinian state here in the land of Israel will be stopped. And we are going to pray that the evangelical Christian community in America will act now like Queen Esther and go before the President of the United States and tell him clearly to abandon his deal of the century, pressuring the nation of Israel to accept a Palestinian state on God's holy land. We know that this is going to bring much danger, not only to Israel, but also to the United States of America. The last few presidents in the White House have all tried to divide this land by establishing a Palestinian state. And because of that, the United States of America is more divided today than any time before in history since the Civil War 150 years ago. This is what is happening when what you do to Israel, God will do to you. The same measure that you measure will be measured to you. If America divides Israel, God will divide America, and it will cease to be a world empire. That is what is at stake right now. And it's coming up here in the next few weeks with the elections in Israel and the unveiling of the peace plan by President Trump right after the elections. I just want to read from the book of Joel, the familiar famous verses here in chapter 3, verse 1 and 2, so that we see clearly from the Word of God the danger that this involves. For behold, in those days and at that time, when I restore the fortunes of Judah and Jerusalem, I will gather all the nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. We know that right now, over the past 100 years, God has been restoring the fortunes of Judah and Jerusalem. And the valley of Jehoshaphat is the valley of judgment. God is going to bring all nations to the valley of judgment. Why? It says, and I will enter into judgment with them there on behalf of my people and my heritage, Israel. This is the very issue that will determine God's judgment on the nations of the world, what they have done to Israel. And two things are mentioned here. Number one, because they have scattered them among the nations. This has happened over the past 2,000 years. And secondly, they have divided up my land. Now we know that the United Nations, they have already fulfilled this prophecy by dividing this land, calling for the two-state solution. But not only the United Nations, also the United States of America, through their presidents, have called for the division of the land of Israel by establishing a Palestinian state here on God's own land. And because of that, America is also in great danger. The only hope right now is for the evangelical Christian community in America to act like Esther. Because we know even the Jews in America, they have also accepted this two-state solution. The greatest advocacy for Israel in America, AIPAC, has this as a foundation for their work, the implementation of the two-state solution. So we call on those in America who believe in the Bible, the evangelical, Bible-believing Christian community, which elected President Donald Trump. And thank God they did, because that has been a blessing for America. However, it is this part of the picture that is very important, that also President Trump from the beginning has embarked on this dangerous path of trying to establish peace here in the land of in the Middle East by creating a Palestinian state. So we call on those who are friends of Israel in America, specifically the evangelical Christian community. And I would say also the greatest organization right now in America for Israel, QFI, Christians United for Israel, and their great leader, Pastor John Hagee. I call on them and on you to act like Queen Esther and to go before the President of the United States of America and appeal to him to cancel his plans for the deal of the century. So let's join together in fasting and prayer on March 20, I declare this day as a day of fasting, a day of fasting like Queen Esther did, in order to stop this dangerous plan of the deal of the century to establish a Palestinian state. As a foundation, let us read from Psalm 33, a few verses here to base our prayers on these verses here. From verse 8, let all the earth fear the Lord. Let all the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. Why? For he spoke and it came to be. He commanded and it stood firm. We're talking about the creator of the ends of the earth and the entire universe with all of its galaxies. He is the one before whom we need to tremble. And then it says in verse 10, the Lord brings the counsel of the nations to nothing. He frustrates the plans of the peoples. That is what we need to pray for regarding President Donald Trump's deal of the century. And then it says in verse 11, the counsel of the Lord stands forever, the plans of his heart to all generations. We also must pray then for the elections here in Israel on April 9, that there will be a great victory for those political parties that refuse to negotiate about a division of this land and establish a Palestinian state. There is a new political party now that has been established primarily for this purpose, to frustrate President Donald Trump's peace plan, his deal of the century. It's headed by Education Minister Naftali Bennett, together with the also Minister of Justice, Ayelet Shaked. And they have declared clearly, appealing to the voters in Israel now to vote for them, because they want to support Prime Minister Netanyahu standing strong against this plan to divide the land of Israel and establish a Palestinian state. There is a danger that this plan has actually been developed together with Prime Minister Netanyahu by President Trump. Because even before President Trump announced his plan, his peace plan, Prime Minister Netanyahu publicly pleaded with President Trump to come forth with with a peace plan for the Middle East. We don't know what the stand is now by Prime Minister Netanyahu, I should say, but he needs the support of strong political parties on the right that will encourage him to not give in to a plan to divide the land of Israel. Otherwise, there is a great danger that Prime Minister Netanyahu will form a coalition with the new party, the Resilience Party, by former Chief of Staff Benny Gantz. And certainly he is all for the division of this land and even uprooting Jewish communities. Friends, Israel has maybe not been in such a danger ever since 1948, actually as it is right now. The establishment of a Palestinian state will be a tremendous danger for the nation of Israel, even more so than the nuclear weapons of Iran. So stand in the gap right now, pray with us, pray that God will frustrate President Donald Trump's deal of the century. Pray for the elections here in Israel, that the people will elect a strong right-wing government headed by political parties that refuse to accept a Palestinian state. Pray specifically for much favor for this party called the New Right, headed by Education Minister Naftali Bennett, so that he can give strong support to Prime Minister Netanyahu not to give in to a plan to divide the nation of Israel. I hope I made my case clear to you, the danger that Israel is in right now. Please forward this appeal, this YouTube, this video on Facebook, in every way you can, to people who pray for Israel. And let's stand in the gap right now, because the danger is great, both for Israel as well as for the United States of America. I'm Lars Enarson with the Watchman International coming to you from Jerusalem. Shalom and God bless you.